Khamzat Chimaev has been teasing a move up to the light heavyweight division for months now, and recently there has been rumors that he could fight for the vacant belt against Jiri Prochazka. And if this fight actually happens, I think it's a stylistic nightmare for Jiri. The only fighter Jiri has faced in the UFC who posed a real threat in the wrestling and grappling department was Glover Teixeira, and coincidentally that was one of the hardest fights of his career. And let's be clear, Glover Teixeira was 42 years old and I believe 7 months, so he was about to be 43 years old. Glover took Jiri down on his first takedown attempt and controlled him nearly 10 minutes of their 5-round fight. That alone tells you a lot. One of Jiri Prochazka's biggest weaknesses has always been wrestling and grappling. You can also point to his striking defense, but against Khamzat, striking defense isn't the main issue. Funny enough, both guys have, bad striking defense. We've seen Khamzat get clipped and dropped by Gilbert Burns. We saw him get tagged by short notice off the couch, Kamaru Usman. And in Khamzat's last fight with Dricus du Plessis, especially in that final round, we saw cracks in his defense too. Jiri's defense has basically always been his chin and his toughness, and that's obviously the truth. I'll give him credit though. In his last 2 fights, his head movement has improved, but he's still a long way to go from being defensively sound, in my opinion. Now, the reason I don't think Jiri stands much of a chance here isn't because he's not elite, obviously. It's because I don't think he's a good enough wrestler to stop even one takedown attempt from Khamzat Chimaev. If Khamzat gets one clean entry, one body lock, one trip, this fight, he shoots one takedown attempt, this fight is going to be on the ground, and once it's there, Jiri is not going to survive for long. Now, if, and this is a massive if, Jiri somehow survives the initial onslaught for 5 rounds, right, like Dricus did, then sure, I'll give him a puncher's chance. At light heavyweight, chaos always exists. Jiri has pulled miracles before. Just look at what he did against Khalil Roundtree. Jiri claims he wasn't down to, or he wasn't losing the fight, but the scorecards and the fans know he was losing. He still found a way, But picking a puncher's chance against Khamzat Chimaev is like betting Justin Gaethje knocks out Ilia Topuria at the White House. Technically possible. Realistically, I just don't see it happening. Another issue for Jiri in this matchup is his power. I think you need one punch knockout power to stop a Khamzat Chimaev, and Jiri doesn't really have that. He breaks people down over time, volume, pressure, attrition, but that advantage disappears if the fight spends most of its time on the ground, which I personally think he will be on the ground most of the time. Since Glover retired, there isn't a single top ranked light heavyweight who truly forces Jiri to prioritize wrestling in his preparation. He may work on it in his training, of course, but it's not a constant threat in that division. And against Khamzat, it suddenly becomes the entire fight. Even with a full healthy camp, I don't believe Jiri can improve his wrestling enough to consistently keep this fight standing. And if this fight is Jiri on his back instead of breaking someone down late on the feet, his entire game falls apart. Khamzat is also already sparring with Khalil Roundtree, and he doesn't even look small. In fact, he looks bigger than Khalil Roundtree while they're sparring, and I think he would absorb shots very well in this division. And if we're being real, the only reason this fight would be booked is to set up a fight against Alex Pereira if he does win the heavyweight title. In my opinion, this fight doesn't come down to toughness, heart, or experience. It comes down to styles. And stylistically, this is about as bad as it gets for Jiri Prochazka. My official pick for this fight, if it does get booked, is Khamzat Chimaev by round 1 submission, round 2 at the latest. Jiri's only real path is late chaos, and bidding on chaos against Khamzat is not something I'm willing to do. But with that being said, make sure you leave a like, hit that subscribe button with the bell on so you don't miss my live companions for all the cards. But with that being said, I'll see everyone very, very soon. Goodbye.